guys. This video is going to be a little bit different because I am under the weather and this is going to be minimally edited, but I felt that this topic was important. I would rather get this out of my system than complete some of my other partially edited videos right now. So recently, an internet influencer was giving his opinion on what he thought the best martial art for the street was. And first of all, before we really get into it, anybody who says that there is one catch-all martial art that is suited even optimally for self-defense is either fanboying over it or is trying to sell you that martial art. I mean, I've been studying various martial arts since the mid to late 80s when I was a child. You see my gigantic book collection back here. There is not one thing that I have encountered that could not be improved upon by incorporating different elements from a separate martial art. There is no one-size-fits-all martial art. Let's get that out of the way. Initially, I had planned on going point by point as a response to this particular video. I frankly decided against that because I didn't want to give this individual more attention than he already had. But some of the points that he made have been made by other people. And in particular, what I want to talk about is that he's using the terms self-defense and street fight interchangeably. They are not interchangeable terms. If you ask most young men, what situation they imagine themselves getting into that would require physical force, many of them would probably equate it to a street fight. A street fight it's an ego fight. It is a fight without any official rules and without anyone sitting on the sidelines making sure that any particular rules are enforced. With that being said, there is clearly a code of conduct for most street fights. You can look at the hundreds or thousands that we have online and consider this. Most men, particularly if they're untrained, understand how potentially devastating it is to be hit in their private parts. If the objective of street fights was to end the fight as quickly and as decisively as possible, we would see people starting those fights with a kick between the legs. We don't. That is because they are dominance rituals. Someone feels that one other, often young, often male, person has insulted them and made them look foolish in front of their friends. So now we have to go fight. Or somebody is feeling so insecure that they decide they want to pick a fight with that guy right there. That is what street fights are. And it does move beyond that. Sometimes there are street brawls between large groups of people, hooliganism and stuff like that. But ultimately, there are codes of conduct. Now, if you ask an older gentleman, like if you asked my father, who is in his 70s, what sort of self-defense situation he's preparing for, and if he would call it a street fight, the answer would be no. He's prepared for what is referred to as asocial violence. Social violence is violence based on establishing a social hierarchy. Asocial violence is about, I've been hired to kill you, I want your stuff. You know, society has like zero part in that. So my dad's concerned about things like home invasion or somebody trying to, you know, take his money or steal his car. And if you look at what most women think of when they think about self defense, again, it's not going to come out as street fight. It's going to come out as I want to protect myself from domestic abuse, from sexual assault, from being mugged, from being abducted. So we can see that there's definitely a difference between street fighting and self defense. Now, one thing to note is that a fight may turn into a self defense situation or vice versa. Consider, for instance, you know, you're having a male dominance fight with some guy because, you know, he threw a beer on you or called you a name or something like that, right? You're doing angry young men stuff. And you're squaring up and you're swinging at each other when all of a sudden you get blindsided by his buddy, and now you're curled up in fetal position and they are putting the boots to you. You've gone from having a fight to a self defense situation. Hello, Benny. Hello, Benny. Meow. Meow. Hello, buddy. In the counterexample, I'm going to actually steal this from American Kempo specialist Larry Tatum. For those who are unfamiliar, American Kempo, Parker lineage Kempo, will often teach dozens of very specific self-defense maneuvers against very specific attacks. And in the intro to one of his videos on freestyle fighting, which I think refers to sparring, basically, he presents a scenario as to why this is important. So, you're in an elevator, and somebody grabs your shoulder from behind, you know, in the horrible, assaulting way of grabbing your shoulder from behind, you know, and you know, do your self-defense maneuver and you get free. But you're in an elevator, so you've hit this guy a few times, he's not out of the fight, and you do not have the option to escape. So now, it's a fight, right? So let's pretty please use the appropriate terms for these different situations. Self-defense can actually encompass a number of things. And one of my personal pet peeves is that many people assume that a self-defense situation needs to require lethal force. This is untrue. You know, there are many different self-defense situations. If somebody grabs your coat to intimidate you, and that's it, that's all that they're doing, you know, you would have trouble legally justifying, you know, taking a knife to their throat. The amount of force you chose to use did not match the amount of force that they were using against you. Again, the rule of thumb for use of force is that you have to use the minimum amount of force to extricate yourself from clear and present physical danger. You know, legally, check your local laws to find out exactly what that means, but also make sure that your use of force is appropriate to the attack that's coming at you. Okay, lightning round for some of the other points that this individual made. Boxing as a mode of self-defense. Boxing can basically only make your ability to fight better if you develop some level of skill in it. Self-protection specialist Jeff Thompson says if you only learned one thing, learn that. You know, Bruce Lee was enamored with it and incorporated it into his expression of Jeet Kune Do. I think Kelly McCann, who's a combatives guy, has mentioned boxing as being good for developing a mobile fighting platform. You know, helping you get good at things like range and footwork. So I don't think it's the be all end all, but it will definitely make you better. Point number two, this individual described grappling as a medium as useless for self defense. This is demonstrably untrue. We have seen multiple occasions where people used some form of grappling to defend themselves in an uncontrolled environment. It's not always the best choice. There are, in fact, several instances where it is a bad choice. But to say that it is useless is sort of being out of touch with reality. Point number three. The claim was that if you were in a triangle choke, you could just bite the guy in his private parts. I think anyone who thinks that doesn't understand how that move works. You know, basically, can you bite your own neck? Can you chew through your own upper arm in order to bite your own neck? Because that's what it would take to get to your attacker's private bits. So don't take advice from someone who so obviously doesn't know what they are talking about. Anyway, thanks again for indulging me, listening to my little rant here. I do apologize for the sound of my voice right now. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you.